Hey y'all, what's good? LaCour here, owner of Y Massage Bodywork and Natural Fitness, licensed massage therapist, certified personal trainer, natural trainer, and corrective exercise specialist. I'm here today with my homie Raymond Eady. And Ray, why don't you go ahead and tell him a little bit about
How's everybody doing? My name is Ray Eady. I'm an exercise physiologist, strength and conditioning coach, sports performance coach. I'm also a licensed manual therapist and a former lecturer at the RWW, University of Wisconsin, teaching in the exercise science and kinesiology department.
Word up. And so today what we're doing here, Raymond, we recently partnered here at Y Massage and bringing some of our therapies together and trying to get the best results for our clients. But we wanted to share some information today. What we're calling today is Roots of Wellness Wednesdays, okay? So it's where we're going to talk about different aspects of wellness, therapy, massage, training, movement, and just get into different things from different perspectives. And today, what we're going to break into is talking about the mental, physical, and emotional well-being of a person in relation to training. And what does that all mean? And the mental is the mind, the physical is the body, and emotion is the spirit. And within that, now with the TCM model in Chinese medicine, we look at this as the tri-unit. And that's the TCM model. It's like the mind, body, and spirit all need to be in harmony together in order for a holistic performance improvement. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
So we kind of breaking this down here, and then we're gonna elaborate on this a little bit more, and I'm gonna let Ray express some of his things in here in a sec. But then how that all relates to therapy and training, and the therapy kind of relates to how we heal. Okay, this is how we're healing using these models, and then the training is the adaptation, and then which the outcome is improved performance. Okay. So Ray, why don't you go ahead and tell us just a little bit? I know you worked with your athletes, and in pertaining to that mind or mental, physical, and emotional side, what are some things that you ran into with, we're just discussing a little bit.
Yeah, well, in my line of business, working with athletes, our job is really to get the athlete ready to compete. Okay, and I think sometimes in that process, we always think about how do we physically get the athlete ready to compete?
Yeah. And
sometimes we forget about the mental and emotional wellness or aspects of competition. And I was sharing a story with you of an athlete that I used to work with, and this athlete was just phenomenal. Physically, very lean, very strong, moved well. The sport that they played in, very skillful. In a practice setting, they were just tremendous. I mean, did all the right things. Coaches loved them. I love this particular player, not because they were just physically gifted, but they were just a good person. But what happens is when that particular player would compete, their performance didn't match their preparation, their physical preparation. And we would always beat our head, what's going on? Because physically we felt that the player was ready. We thought from a strategic standpoint that they were prepared, very skilled, but unfortunately they never translated into competition. So as a strength coach, when we think of competition, most people, we think of, is there a transfer of training to the playing field? But we need to start thinking, in my opinion, and sports psychologists out there can probably attest to this, is the mental wellness and the emotional, spiritual wellness of the athlete. And is it intact with the physical wellness, right? So this particular player, I believe, this is just my opinion, just had a fear of competition. Not only a fear of competition, but had a fear of the role that we placed on them. And we wanted them to have a leadership role because of their physical prowess. Right? So I don't believe that this person kind of wanted this role. You understand? So mentally, she had a fear of having that sort of role, which impacted her ability to play. And spiritually, emotionally, she didn't believe that she could be that role, be that leader. Interesting enough, though, when that particular player didn't perform well, we would always we never looked at, was she emotionally or mentally engaged. We always looked at what was going wrong physically.
Yes.
So, and I see that we saw that with a lot of athletes. Now, don't get me wrong. Some athletes, there is a physical limitation that is not present that may impact their ability to play, right? But I think with this particular player, we were just dumbfounded. Like, we just couldn't figure it out because we just felt that physically she was just, the readiness was there.
Yeah.
And if I had to go back into time as a coach, what I would probably do with her and have some intervention was to bring in somebody to actually help her with the mental aspects of competition and with the emotional aspects of competition. And I think when you look at players, some of the best players out there have all three. If you talk about we're in Wisconsin, so this is Bucks territory, and I'm a Boston Celtics fan. I'm still upset that the Bucks beat the Celtics. But when you look at a player like Kawhi Leonard, and they were able to win that series. But when you look at him, he had a physical presence about himself, but I think he had a will and desire to win, so he didn't have a fear of losing. And spiritually, he knew what his role was. Yes. He believed in himself, and he kind of combined that with his physical talent in order to perform at a high level to move the Toronto Raptors onto the next series. And you see with a lot of your great athletes, like your LeBron James or your Kobe Bryants or whoever, or maybe an Aaron Rodgers or a Brett Favre, that, they're physically talented, but there's something else that they bring to the table.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when I think of training is, our training has to create some type of adaptation, right? We always think about, okay, this athlete has to get stronger. Yeah, we're gonna get them stronger. They have to be explosive. Yeah, we have to get them explosive. They have to be lean. They have to be well conditioned to create that adaptation in order to improve performance. But I think you and I, we've had these discussions, these long discussions about, just the mind and spirit has to be present. And if it's not present, it impacts the ability of the body to perform physically.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So so exactly what he was saying there. So some of these things are missing. Some of you might find sports psychology, do they kind of get into it a little bit, would you say? I mean, I know they get into the mental health of
I think sports psychology,
more so like, do they need depression medicine or something like that more so than
and I'm not a sports psychologist, correct? Understand, and I believe some of our athletes utilize a sports psychologist, right? So I don't want to dictate what they do.
Sure.
But I think you can attest to this, and I think this is where the traditional Chinese model is really outstanding, is just the whole spiritual element.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think sometimes we may talk about the mentality of competing, just being prepared or being tough, not having fear, taking ownership and accountability, what have you. But I don't think we talk too much about the emotional aspects of it, the spiritual aspects of it. You know what I mean? Are you just emotionally there?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit, like the spiritual wellness that. And we're talking about training right now. We got to get into a therapy because you and I have clients that have come to us and the spiritual component is not present, which impacts the healing. Or mentally, they're just not engaged, which impact the healing. So we are talking about athletes right now, but it'd be interesting for us to talk more, I think, about, just the emotional component. You know what I mean? If you're just emotionally just not present, like how that impacts your ability just to perform. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you like a story. When I was a competitive gymnast, and I was very focused at a young age. I was really focused on making my body strong, getting as strong as I could possibly be, so I could do iron crosses, double backflips, whatever. And one of the things that it was kind of interesting because I was raised in a spiritual home, where the spirit was very strong and, letting what my mother considered letting God lead, she would say. And for me, I kind of drifted away from that. And that's when I noticed a lot of my energy, my strength, and that sort of thing became out of sync. I won't say I became less strong, but I wasn't in sync because I wasn't harmonized. It's like my whole body wasn't harmonized. So one of the things that I started to tap into was, mindful, just meditating. I would do standing meditation.
Sure.
At that time, I was 19. I didn't really know what I was doing. I was just sitting there. I'm gonna act like Bruce Lee right now. Right. And I'm gonna sit there and I'm just gonna focus, and I'm gonna imagine myself doing a backflip, imagine myself doing it, sticking the landing, completing everything. So that started to bring me into this place where I'm like, okay, I know there's some other aspects in here. Fast forward to another story, working with I had a triathlete.
Yes.
Who I was working with, and he or they didn't get a chance to really, or they weren't really tapped into any sort of spirit side. And when I say spirit and emotion, more so that willpower of like, I'm gonna win, the mantra.
Okay.
Like, I'm gonna win. I can do this. I'm gonna complete this, right? And so I noticed that on one side, he put everything in the physical. And now this is probably one of the third triathlons that he had done. Every one, something bombed. Bike broke down. Sprained both ankles in one of the race. Sprained both ankles. All of a sudden just energetically drained, right? So now I attribute that to like the preparation for something of like an endurance training. The preparation of your mind needs to be like key with all of these components, because for him, his mind was really, in my opinion, was not at the level it could be. I'm not going to say weak, but he wasn't at the level it could be. He hadn't really told himself that he was going to complete this, Okay, first time physically he wasn't prepared. He didn't prepare enough. Second time, his still mentally wasn't there, but he did prepare. Right? But mentally he didn't really see himself finishing. Right? Didn't see himself running across that finish line. Ran into all kinds of problems again. And then the third time, same thing. So he left these components out, and then eventually that emotional side and the spirit side was screaming at him and was saying, hey, do you really believe you should do this? Why are you doing this? You run a marathon, this sort of thing. People, you go into that place. Why are you doing this? Your mind starts talking to you. Okay, you just stop. You can just stop and it'd be done. That takes a whole nother spirit, something outside of yourself, to be able to engage into that and keep yourself focused on that. So that was interesting. And then I've worked with triathletes who do work from these components, right? Emotionally, they came, their whole family is like, we win. We're warriors. We're going to complete this. Played college basketball, you know what I mean? Had all the components. Her mind was there. Physically, train.
Right.
Almost to the point where it was like a little bit overboard. This cup ran over a little bit. So she ended up in a little bit more of a state of where she wasn't, she was overtraining a bit.
Sure.
Okay, and so we were trying to get a restoration to improve her performance. Mental, just tough. Wins a race, age bracket at the last mile in a triathlon. So that's a marathon. You're sprinting at the end of a marathon.
Sure.
That is impressive, right? So again, like you said, taking these components together. So I look at these things, and then the tri-unit, which I've always used in the TCM model, is when a person comes in, what are these components that they are they, because you can kind of tap in within the first session, you start to learn more, but you can tap in. Does a person really tapped into the emotional side of what they're doing? Is a person, obviously, are they spending the physical time that they need?
Yes.
Training the body. And then are they mentally prepared, to do these things? So the TCM model, this has been around for years. And it's always been the forefront of a lot of training for whether you had Olympic gymnasts or Olympic athletes and this sort of thing. I always say gymnastics because that was my thing. But when you watch the first guy who did the triple backflip, no one had done it. So you have to tap into some other realm, right? To imagination, your mind, your focus. Yes, yeah. To see yourself do it. And, here he does, triple backflip, bang. And was it 84 Olympics? That is amazing. That was impressive, to see that. And so he tapped into a whole nother side of himself to be able to do it. And he brought all those aspects. So the other side, taking it back to sports, I see sports as it's all martial arts.
Okay.
They're all in some way. Their competition is a form of a evolution of combative arts, right?
Okay.
And so sports, as we've gotten built on the sports, they've been around since like gladiator days, and there's always some sort of competitive thing. The men, I'm saying, in different tribes in Africa would fight. In Angola specifically, which Capoeira is connected to, they would fight for the honor to marry, another tribe's daughter or part of the tribe's daughter, or family marry into a family. Okay. So they had it as a tradition. And those things just kind of build off of that. So you could take it in your sport, baseball. Mm-hmm. That's swords.
Okay.
Right? And combative. We can go into more about that. But, so I look at it like that. So this wasn't divorced from that at that time, because there was more survival involved. But somewhere along the line, we divorced from this. Mm-hmm. And we see more injury, and those sort of things happen. And that sort of thing. So that's just a little bit of the story of sort of, of how some of that has happened.
And let me play upon this. We're talking about, obviously we're talking about the clients that we work with or the athletes that we work with, but this model also has to be present with the practitioner.
Yes.
And you know where I'm going with that, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, being a practitioner, you being a practitioner, these elements have to be inside of us.
Yes.
So people are going to ask, well, what do you need? Well, let's talk about the physical. Like our work is very physically draining. Mm-hmm. Manual therapy is draining on our bodies. So physically, we have to be ready for working with our clients and working with our athletes. Physically, we have to be present. But we also have to be present emotionally, and we also have to be present mentally as well. First of all, we have to believe that our therapy or our training is going to yield good results. Mm-hmm. And then we have to be of the spirit too. So we have to be engaged. Mm-hmm. If I come into my practice, or if I come into a training session and I don't want to be there because I'm just mad, because I'm having a bad day, that's going to impact that session. Same with the client. If I have a client that, let's be honest, if I have a client that is not doing the work that I'm asking them to do, and if I see this client and I'm saying to myself, I don't want to work with that client, but that client is still coming to, visit us to get that therapy, then I have to, kind of put myself in a space that says, I'm going to fulfill the need of this client. You understand what I'm saying?
And how do we go about getting
and how do we work together and getting to a place where we can get to a point of healing? So understand is that for all the practitioners out there that are listening to watching this video, is that we have to have these elements as well. We can't expect just our clients and our athletes to have these elements. We have to have those elements as well. And there needs to be balance. I think I heard you saying that you can't have the dominant one, then the others kind of lag behind, right? Yeah. So don't get it wrong. If you're an athlete, you got to be physically ready to go.
Oh, yeah.
You can't just say, well, I'm going to take the whole off season off.
And focus on the mind.
Right. Only, but when I come back, I'm just going to, I'm mentally just going to, be engaged in what needs to happen. And it's like, well, no. You just not, the physical readiness is not there. And also, the physical is important, just creating some durability and resiliency while you're playing. That's for another topic. So each of these components have to be equal. One can't be more than the other. If you're trying to, from an athletic standpoint, from a sports standpoint, if you're really trying to perform at a high level. When it's coming to therapy, if we're getting clients that's coming in and they're seeking some type of some type of healing, then the client, from what I worked with and from what I've seen, the clients that were able to see progress in their therapy were the ones that, okay, if I give them a take-home assignment, they were consistent, and the adherence was high because they knew that they were going to get better from doing this, and they believed in it.
Yeah.
They executed.
Yeah.
Then the healing began. And someone once told me, I think all strength coaches out there heard this before, is you could put together a great training program, or you can put together a great treatment program if it's therapy based, but the best program is the one that the client or athlete adheres to and believe in and is spiritually engaged.
Yes.
And you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and I could put together, we don't do this, right? But we could put together something that may not be, could be poor, or may not be complex. But if they're all in, there's going to be some healing.
Yep.
There's going to be some adaptation. And it's going to have an impact on performance. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's beautiful. It definitely will have an impact if you bring it together. So the idea too, looking at it as a holistic thing, right? This is a holistic practice of going back to taking care of yourself.
Sure.
Mentally preparing yourself. Just trying to talk about that a little bit. So the idea of how do we
talk about the practitioner?
Yeah, the practitioner.
Of course,
tapping into that so that we can be our best selves every day.
Sure.
Because that's real talk. You know what I mean? Doing this for 20 years,
And that's that's not just for us.
No, that's
for anybody that has to get up and go to a job.
Yes.
I mean, these elements have to be present.
Yes.
And if you're working a 9 to 5, 40 hours or 50, 60 hours a week, right? That's still performance-based.
Yep.
Those elements have to exist.
Yeah, for sure. So but and just kind of putting it in a sense of trainers, therapists, and therapist trainers and that sort of thing, coaches.
Sure.
Because you're asked to have high spirit, right?
All the time.
Especially a coach.
All the time.
You're supposed to have high spirit. It's just you are the motivator.
Every day.
So how does the motivator continue to motivate themselves, right? We got to keep going back to the well, obviously. You having your own movement practice. You got your movement practice, what you do with your body, right?
Yes.
You got your mindful practice, what you do with your mind. Do you calm your mind daily? You know what I mean? Do you take time to just put everything aside and just say, here's where I am, here's what it is, and just try to let your mind be clear.
Sure.
And just relax your mind, prayer, meditation, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, spirit to take it even further, knowing that this healing comes from, an energy, and what they call it chi, call it prana, call it Holy Spirit, call it what you will. It all comes from a greater source of energy, in my opinion. It all comes from a greater thing. And then it's not that you need to necessarily believe in this greater thing, but what needs to happen is that the awareness that you are not the only thing, right?
Okay.
So we're not the only thing, or we're not the one saying, I'm going to heal this person. Yes, we can develop our programs, and we should. We do our work and do it skillfully.
Sure.
But we are, when I'm teaching, I always say we're vessels that information is running through. Don't block it, right? Don't let anything block.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? Just let that information, because that's if you even want to look into it, the relaxation response, right? Parasympathetic state.
Sure.
Right? There's been facts where they've told us that your body or your mind actually absorbs the most information. Your body does the most healing, and you're able to think more clearly. You're able to speak more clearly when you are in a parasympathetic state. So that's the restoration state, right? So your body can do these processes.
Even with the physical, though.
Yeah.
Adaptations take place when you're in the recovery state.
There you go.
That's facts.
So kind of breaking that into therapy, you know what I mean? As a therapist or as a trainer, as a coach, I think it's important to be checked in that way.
Yeah.
We see it all the time, you know what I mean? The coach, you know what I mean? Maybe they beat their body a little much, and they can teach this information to their athletes, but are they physically able to maybe go for just a simple jog with the team? You know what I mean? Things like that. I think those basics are important, because, you have kids, I have kids. Our kids look at what we do.
Okay.
Right? More so than they listen to what we say.
Okay.
So they look at what we do, and then they go, oh, okay. But now if they're saying, well, my dad's really fit, and oh wow, and he trains every day. Wow, and he does that, and they're gonna look at that.
Okay.
Right? They pick up that information more so than like, son, you need to do X, Y, Z, but you're sitting on the couch every day. Son, you need to go work out. Son,
Right.
you need to do these things. It's just one of those things like, can we be about it? And of course, no one's perfect, but can we be about it all? You know what I mean? It's like, what is the guy that like the coach or whatever that can't throw the ball, feed the ball to the back to his starting quarterback or his starting pitcher?
Okay.
So that's my sort of thing. It's like be about it, like, and these are elements that I feel like that I've tried to use throughout my life in coaching, teaching, therapy, as a therapist, trainer, and doing these things. I know it's like I always have to check back in, and that keeps me, balancing it when I come in with working with a client who is maybe more challenging.
Sure.
I can find myself in a place where, even if there's been times where a client's come in and there's just too much going on. Life happens. Life happens, and it's how we respond to life, right? So if I need to take 5 minutes, and say, hey, do you have 5 minutes? Some of my clients are very understanding. Hey, I'm just going to take 5 minutes. Would you mind laying on the table 5 minutes on the still points or whatever? Not that you need to do this, and I'm just going to sit and calm my mind for a little bit. You know what I mean? Just kind of get into my body a little bit.
Sure.
That therapy session is going to be way better. I'm going to be more mentally focused, more engaged. My physical body even responds to that spirit and emotion, right? Because if you're feeling emotionally, your body starts to take on that vibration, that energy, right? So just going into some of the therapy aspects, and then
in terms of the practitioner,
in terms of the practitioner.
Well, that's good stuff. For me, it was more so, first of all, I loved to be in a strength and conditioning coach. So spiritually, I was just always engaged because I just loved what I was doing.
Yes.
And when I was working at the University of Wisconsin as a strength and conditioning coach, a lot of my assignments used to start at like 5 a.m. in the morning.
Wow.
Like Monday through Friday. But I always got up, always went to work, and I was always ready to put in the work because I just loved what I was doing. So spiritually, I was just already engaged. The physical for me is there's no way on earth I would have been able to play against the players I coached.
Yeah.
Let's get
at that level. Right? Not at that level.
No. So, I had golfers. I was not going to out golf.
Yeah.
If that's a word. Any of my golfers or, any tennis players that I've worked with, in that regards. But as far as the physical is concerned, I was always on my feet though. You know what I mean? I was always on my feet. I always had to demonstrate movements.
Yes.
So for me, the physical was just being able to just show what I wanted the athletes to do as far as training is concerned. So
like
that was
foundation.
That foundation. So that was the physical for me, is just being able to do my job because I'm on the floor with the athlete. So a lot of the instruction was also demonstration. So just being able to do those things. And then the mental for me was just having just being positive, but also knowing and having confidence that whatever I was putting out, whatever I was giving the athletes from a training standpoint, and however I was demonstrating, if it was a particular movement, that I was capable of doing it. That it was just positive that, this is going to be a good session. Yeah. Everyone's going to get better at this session. We're going to take it one day at a time. You know what I mean? So, so just listening to you, I totally agree. Yeah. You know what I mean? So, just talking about these, these points. Yeah. Just the client, once again, and going back to the conversation I had about the athlete, I gave an example about the athlete that I thought was just really physically gifted, but I thought, just other components just wasn't present. It's also good for people like us, like therapists and coaches, to, when we see that, is for us to kind of take a step back and meditate, taking information on what we see and how we can make that improvement. You know what I mean? Because I think sometimes we can be caught up in what we think is right and that may not necessarily be right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I
leaving
think
that room for change, leaving that room for things to happen in the moment.
So once again, change has to exist in one of these attributes. I don't know which attribute it would probably exist in.
Yeah.
But
I think all.
Think all.
I think because you can adapt to each one of those, because those all can be practiced in themselves, maybe.
Sure. You know what I mean? So I've always felt that just being flexible, being able to change for the benefit of the client or benefit of the athletes. Because we all have our principles. We all have what we've considered, what we think is right.
Yeah, our truths or that sort of side.
Our truths, right? What we think is right or what we think is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I just got to put myself in tune and say, okay, I got to change up a few things, for the betterment for the athletes or the client I'm working with, and for myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's beautiful for sure. And ultimately, and when we're talking about all this, and I think Ray would agree with, our ultimate goal is always to improve a person's performance in whatever aspect of your life.
We're all athletes in our right.
Exactly, like you said about the therapist. Therapists, where whether you're if you're a psychotherapist, whether you're a physical therapist,
sure,
that sort of thing, you're a physical therapist and athlete after that. Especially the folks who have a lot of mental strength you have to have for people who are always sharing their problems with you or sharing what they're helping them to process some of those things. You need a certain mental strength.
Sure.
Right? And if you're a physical therapist, you're going to need that balance of you're going to have to, you're a manual therapist, manual therapy, massage therapy. We move people's bodies around if you're doing a lot of sports therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So we got to have, that strength for that as well. And then spiritual strength. Maybe you're a pastor, maybe you're a preacher, maybe you're a monk.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you're someone who is, on the spiritual path. There's a mental strength for that. And within all of those, all are intertwined.
Sure.
One feeds into the next and feeds into the next, which brings about better performance. Right?
Sure.
So,
and just to wrap things up too, and a lot of the things that we're talking about may have a sort of an Eastern feel to it. Mm. But understand, we do a lot of integrative stuff too. Right?
Oh yeah.
We believe in Eastern theories, but we also employ Western theories as well. And, but I can tell you right now, I'm very, as far as my practice is concerned, as far as a therapist, as far as a strength coach, I do believe in, science. Mm-hmm. There is some science that dictate like how I, conduct my business with my clients and athletes. There's no doubt about it. Yes. But I also integrate that with the Eastern component as well. Mm-hmm. With what we have discussed here, and I merge them together to sort of create that particular environment, when I'm working with an athlete or when I'm working with a client as well.
For sure.
So I think sometimes, I just want the audience to be aware of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's I don't know if there's no right or wrong. As a matter of fact, I would say this: we're all saying the same things. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Western and Eastern practitioners.
Yes.
But we're all saying the same things, and then I see a lot of similarities. Mm-hmm. Going to East-West Healing Arts Institution to get my my massage license. Great practitioners down there, and there's a couple of people in my class that were strength and conditioning coaches. That we learned the science, and then when we were learning traditional Chinese medicine, and we were saying. Some of this stuff is like we've seen it before.
Yeah, you've heard it. It's like
we've seen it before. We've heard it before.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of similarities.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I just wanted to kind of put that out there.
Yeah, I feel like too. Yeah, that's very, very, very prevalent, and also keeping in mind that this is also we're trying to do daily as well. So it's not like people have figured it out. Yes, there are. And I too get very into the sciences, the integration of it. And one of the things that we should, definitely keep in the consideration is, there are many system avenues that come together to make a whole part or whole person.
Yeah.
So and yes, I do agree. We are saying a lot of the same things as strength coaches, trainers, and the Eastern side. It's like what happens a lot is it gets divorced. Like there's science and there's spirit, or science and God, or science. You know what I mean? It's
Sure.
like they're separate.
Okay.
I believe that they are one and the same aspects, but as humans, we're trying to understand it in this process. So as much as we can put together that our brains understand, we're going to do that. But I really do think that, they've always been together. That's why when you hear certain aspects about this, we could get into the metaphysics, physics of it and how it relates to science, and now they're proving more things in the spirit and the emotional and the mind and meditation and how that affects the body and all these different things now. So we're starting to have more tools.
Well, yeah, I'm
and
glad
study of that.
It's
right
amazing
now,
that you
right?
say that, because I have a lot of friends that are on Twitter,
Yeah,
and a lot of friends on Twitter that are strength coaches,
yeah,
and I'm finding a lot of my colleagues are getting more books on mental training and emotional
Yes.
training, and very less on physical preparation.
yeah. Or we got stacks on the physical preparation.
We have
right?
stats on the physical break, but I think those coaches are, practitioners are starting to understand, like, there's something else involved here. There's something else that's missing that we got to include now.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Okay.
this was beautiful. We appreciate you guys listening to the end. We're here at Y Massage, Bodywork and Natural Fitness website. If you want to schedule any appointments, or come in with a training session with Ray or myself, or some therapy or some integrative sessions, you can go to our website, www.ymassage.net. You can schedule right online through that way. You can also call through phone, contacts that way, or email, and get in contact with us. Again, here we are, LaCour, Ray, and this is Roots of Wellness Wednesdays. So we will see you guys next Wednesday for another session. Have a blessed day.
Have a blessed day.
Be well.
Yes.
Hey, peace. What's up, you guys? Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy some of these videos, and you want to get the updates. You're going to want to hit that little bell at the bottom there. I don't know if that side. Hit the bell as well, and it'll give you the updates when I put up a new video. So peace. Love you guys. Hope to see you soon. Maybe we'll see you in the gym sometime, or at one of the workshops. Blessings.